Several scholars describe education as the key to the future, playing an important role in the career world. But with the ugly faces of COVID-19 pandemic, which has disrupted the education landscape across the world, it is uncertain to predict the future. For the case of Uganda, some researchers believe COVID-19 is an opportunity to reshape the education sector.
If the education minister does not use COVID-19 to reorganize education in Uganda, then it will never organize education. Never.
The devastating phased manner of the COVID-19 pandemic makes the situation more worrying, as each wave comes with multiple threats which impact in various and complex ways.
Because now they say we are in the second wave. Some countries say they are in the third wave. Nobody knows whether it is the fourth and fifth. First of all, the children are at home and they are growing fast.
Since March 2020, COVID-19 has continued to tease the education system in Uganda, as the current education policy can only hazard to match the underlying environment created by the deadly pandemic. Government introduced a phased reopening of learning institutions in the first lockdown late last year, which did not yield results as most schools registered a number of COVID-19 cases. Jonathan Chivumbi, a researcher in education, attributes the challenge to pure regulatory role, especially private schools, which he says is profit-making institutions.
Why? Because government plays the regulatory role. It has to play the regulatory, the supervisory, the monitoring, and directive and direction roles. But why is it that when it comes to education, everything goes back to laissez-faire? Leave us alone.
The General Secretary of Uganda National Teachers Union, Philbert Baguma, faults politicians who own schools and adapt as untouchables.
Because these schools belong to politicians. They belong to MPs, they belong to ministers, they belong to LC 5 councillors and so on. And now, when the inspector is coming to say this school is at fault, before he reaches office, he will have been warned. You hear order from above.
In 2019, Cabinet approved the National Teachers Policy, which accommodates the National Teachers Council. However, this is still in draft stage at Parliament, although there are hopes that it will guide in the regulatory framework.
And therefore, even when you are in private, as long as you are operating a school, you will be answerable to the National Teachers Council, because it can even close a school.
The education curriculum is another area of concern if a country like Uganda can overcome future disasters like COVID-19 pandemic.
Saying it is dangerous for Uganda and Africa to overemphasize the theory. We need to balance all-round education. E-learning, unfortunately, is mainly again academic. Back again to what is taking place in the schools. Training people how to learn the theory, like we used to learn 2 times 2, 3 times 2. 2 times 2 what? So what do? We make a curriculum. The curriculum which is aimed at capturing the necessary theory and the practical. Because we train people to survive in life. What is the curriculum for that? We need actually to overhaul the curriculum. Overhaul the curriculum to turn out men. How does somebody finish a university when they don't know how to speak?
Again, in 2020, the Ministry of Education and Sports secured about 43.2 billion shillings, including 206 billion from the savings of the capitation grant, to cater for procurement and distribution of home study materials to enable the learners continue with their normal schedules from their respective homes. But the 10th Parliament faulted the Minister of Education on the unfriendly usage of the money, which up to now hangs in balance. Considering the lack of frameworks and infrastructure for alternative provision of basic education in Africa, and Uganda inclusive, millions of learners have technically been locked out of education. This also puts the global progress towards the SDG 4 targets of ensuring equitable access to quality education at an unprecedented situation. It is of no doubt that the children of the underprivileged have severely faced more limited opportunities to continue learning during the pandemic, creating a disparity in field of education.
For example, if you are on radio and you are conducting a lesson, you cannot tell how many learners are paying attention. You cannot tell how many learners have access to the signals of the radio. And therefore, and still, there are those children with special needs. If you are on TV, you are leaving out the blind. If you are on radio, you are leaving out the deaf.
I have not listened to any program which has come out nationally to teach parents on how to use television programs with their children.
Designing the education system that relies on technology is the most recent phenomenon, although the challenges seemingly overpower the advantages. A case in point is the data connectivity, skills to operate online services, among others.
There must be a clear policy on ELA, because everybody is doing things on their what? On their own. In fact, teachers are using e-learning to con our daughters, to fall in love with our children. This is embarrassing.
It may not be COVID-19, but something else can come in and put us on hold like it is now.
The former chairman, Uganda National Examinations Board, Fajil Mande, wants parents and guardians to use the period of lockdown to instill more of practical to the learners to keep boosting their intelligence.
And COVID has found us in a situation where particularly men think that the responsibility of looking after a child is of a woman, of the mother. Are you getting me? Where they think that no, the child is only trained or learns at the school. No, for goodness sake, the whole country should now change the mindset of every mother and father that learning does not take place at school only. The first school is at home. That's where people learn from.
The disruptions by COVID-19 pandemic increases on a daily basis, with most yet to be understood. All hopes are in the journey to recognize the brutality of the educational risks represented by the COVID-19 pandemic and to take responsibility to lead a process that is as effective and equitable as possible in tackling this adaptive challenge. Daniel Mugoya, UBC News.